Okay, we're here this morning again, folks, with a different fitting. It's a twisted fitting, rectangular duct fitting that's twisted as it goes through its length. So, hard to get a real idea what it looks like in a elevation view like this one. It kind of looks like a basket or something. But we can see that we got a main triangle here at the front, and this peak here is actually coming out towards us. So that's kind of looking at an end. You know, like this would show. Now, one of our deciding factors when we start to triangulate a fitting is the top and bottom being parallel or not. Is it cut on a pitch? Is it on some angle? And when the two top and bottom are parallel, we can use plan view triangulation, which is much easier form than from elevation view. So this fitting would be extremely difficult to do from this view here, but it's an easier view to show us really what the fitting's looking like. So we see that in this view. So what we get when we have parallel top and bottom is a consistent height. So anywhere along this fitting, it's 8 inches tall. Okay, and that's what allows us to use plan view. If this was cut on a slope or a pitch somewhere, the 8 inches would change throughout. And we would have to find out the height at each of those points where the element lines hit the outsides. And so that's a time-consuming process. So we would go with just elevation view at that point. But since we're 8 inches consistently throughout the whole fitting, we can go with plan view. Okay? So we got a 4x6 base here. It's 8 inches tall. It's twisting at 45 degrees. And we have no size change, so this end is 4x6 as well. It's just shifted. So let's get our plan view drawn. Okay, so there's our plan view. I've got my two openings. I changed one of the openings to a different color just so we can identify it easier. And now I'm going to go ahead and label that. And this one, when I'm labeling, I'm going to use letters on one end and numbers on the other. And it's one of the only times I'll use numbers on something rectangular, but it gives us a way to identify between top and bottom, because that becomes an important aspect of knowing which end we're at. So, okay, I got my labels on there now, and now what I want to do is connect with element lines between the top and bottom. So, for example, from AB, I'm going to connect to 1 to make a triangle, and from BC, I'm going to connect to 2 to make triangles. So I'll connect those all the way around with my straight edge. Okay, so there's all my element lines in there now. I've connected all the top and bottom, and the green is all my element lines that I'm going to have to find true lengths for. On our plan view now, if we're going from letter to letter, we know it's a true length in this elevation view. I know D to C is 4 inches. We drew it, we know from our size. So letter to letter is true length. Same with number to number is a true length. It's when we go letter to number when it needs to be found, the true length needs to be found. So 1 to B, for example, or 1 to A needs to be put into a true length diagram. So that's our next step. We know we're a vertical height of 8 inches. So I'm going to take that as the vertical on my true length diagram, give myself a arbitrary baseline, horizontal, and I just need it long enough to fit any of these lines in. So if I took the longest one of these ones here, I know that it'll be long enough. Okay, so let's get rid of our shop drawing here now. I'll create my true length diagram and we'll start the pattern. Okay, now I can bring all my points into the true length diagram so that they're all ready when we go make our pattern. So pick up length 1B from the plan view. And then I want to label all these as well. So there's all our element lines in there now. And we know the length of the plan view, 90 degrees to the vertical height. The hypotenuse of that will give us the true length. So now we're ready to develop our pattern. Okay. We'll start with one triangle, and just at the front here is a good one to start with, is AB. But one thing we want to really consider, and this, even though it's not a very challenging fitting as far as the pattern development skills to it, what becomes challenging to it is to make it correctly. And the most common thing is to make it inside out. And remember, we always want to lay out everything to the inside. So if we're considering this to the inside, we want to imagine being inside that fitting, looking at line AB. Okay, if I look at that and I look down at it, that tells me that A is on my right-hand side and B is on my left. So when I start my baseline, I want to orientate things that way. Because if I start off AB, A on the left-hand side, I'm looking at the outside. And if I forget that, if I lay out the whole thing and then bend it as though it's the inside, I'm going to be backwards. Okay, so let's start baseline BA. So we get BA there. Remember, we're inside. Imagine standing in here looking this direction. I have B on my left. So that's what I end up with on my baseline here. Okay, from there once we get that sorted, chances are we're going to build the fitting correctly. Okay? So if we look at line AB, the only thing that connects it to make a triangle is point 1. So point 1 has to be our first thing that we develop. So we're looking for a line A1 and line B1. So true length of A1. Swung from A. True length of B1. Swung from B. There we go. That gets us point 1. Now the next one, if we keep moving around, point 2 is attached here. So we can keep going off B to point 2, which will lead us around this side of the fitting. Okay, so we can take line 1, 2, and again, remember, number to number is true length. And B2, true length of B2. Next one we're going to go is B to C. So we'll pick up true length of BC. And C2. True length of C2. And that is swung from 2. And we're going to have to extend this. I'm coming into my true length diagram some. But that's okay, I'm squishing it into this corner so that I can go this way around the fitting. So that becomes point C here. Okay, so there's our half pattern. We've gotten halfway around the fitting. And what we've ended up with is a seam on line C3 and a seam on A1. Okay, and what we want to do is go back and start another pattern. Starting and stopping with those two seams. Okay, so what we can do is go baseline CD and create point 3 to get our next pattern going, and then carry on with that one just the same way. We'll work around this way until we land at A1 to finish. So same process as we just used to finish it off and create that second pattern. Once you have those, you're off to the races. Keep in mind when we're looking again inside to point DC, C is on my right. So we're going to start with baseline DC and triangulate point 3. And then again we'll work to the left, coming around this fitting this way to end at A1. Okay, and then we start with our C3, which will match to C3 here. Twisted fitting from plan view. Thanks.